What's going on, people? Dr. Preston Cherry here. Welcome back to the Life Money Balance podcast, to the To Be Real live stream. I haven't been feeling so well, so I usually have this on Sundays, but I want to come out hot on Monday. We're going to talk about Trump tariffs, willful ignorance, one of my favorite movies, and what it has to do with sabbaticals, and also the VIX, the fear index, and NVIDIA and DeepSeek. Let's get to it. All right. We are back to be real. We're keeping it real around here. I hope you all have been well. I haven't been feeling so well. I've been sick for about a month, y'all. Uh, Ever since New Year's. So I kicked off my New Year's with sickness. I was actually in the doctor's office on my birthday, which was last week. 46 years young. It was a great birthday, even though I ended up in the hospital. That triggered a migraine during that time, and it was one of my best birthdays ever, actually, because after I got through at the hospital, I came home and got to play with my son. He's 9 months old now, and he was crawling all over me, even though I wasn't feeling 100%, and still not 100% right now. But I hope all is well with you. Hope your 2025s are going well. And we're getting into February, a big event, world event. I guess next week is the Super Bowl. So I hope that goes well for you too. We're gonna talk about this is the live show once again. We have our new podcast up, our weekly podcast up, talking about financial therapy. So I suggest you go over to YouTube and check that out. Financial therapy is a wonderful partner to financial planning, as it helps to learn the humanity of money, what you value most, and help you align your life and money. Really, the episode really takes a dive into uh, when you talk about aligning your values with your money, it gives you such a purpose, sense of meaning, and fulfillment, and so you can thrive in life with your life and money. So check out that episode, and be sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Now, today the live show is streaming on three channels: LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Now, I'll probably do this one more show, but I want you to log on to YouTube and subscribe there, because that's where the show is going to be exclusively from now on. Probably one more show, and then after that, we're going to be exclusively on YouTube. Okay. All right. What we're going to talk about today: Trump tariffs. It's very fluid. We'll talk about willful ignorance and misinformation. We'll also talk about money in music and movies. One of my favorite movies, and what it has to do with sabbaticals. And then our last segment, we're going to talk about DeepSeek, NVIDIA, and concentration risk. All right. And a little bit of diversification, and also talk about the fear index a little bit too. Now, I have my coffee and everything like that, so I may or may not, uh, you know, cough on you a couple times. I'll try to hit this mute button so I won't shock you to death. All right, but that's why we love live, live television and live media. So let's talk about these Trump tariffs and what it has to do with your portfolio and your finances and your pocketbook. Cash flow is one of the most important fundamental aspects of your finances, and so this is why we're talking about the tariffs, cash flow, uh, what it's going to mean to your spending plans, or having to make some adjustments. And it's not just the tariffs. So I'm talking about the how uh, geopolitics, geopolitics, it has an effect on markets and economy. That's more of the point here. I don't want folks to panic about their finances because of the Trump tariffs. I want folks to look at their finances and protect them and project them. right? And that puts folks in a better position in order to smooth out waters during uncertain geopolitical times and ride out the wave when there's more smoother oceans in front of us, right? And so that's why that's the point I really want to make because there's a lot of propaganda out there, a lot of propaganda when you talk about geopolitics, and you don't concentrate on the propaganda of geopolitics. Focus on the policy and what that may bring to the economy and the markets, and that way you can better focus on your portfolio and your pocketbooks for the future. All right, well, for now and the future, so you can make adjustments to the way you see fit. All right. A lot of noise out here, a lot of noise. And it's no different than any other time when there's a lot of noise out. Well, I would say it's a little different because uh, there's one thing to there's one thing to have uh, financial markets and economies have their ebbs and flows, peaks and troughs, and life cycles, economic cycles. Those are natural cycles. Unpredictability is going to happen. Your unfortunate events. Like we saw some unfortunate events in the airline industry, and folks lost their lives, and folks were affected. Those are very unfortunate events. War, very unfortunate events. Um, those are unpredictable events, and they affect real people. Uh, Now, COVID came about. That was very unpredictable. We Nobody predicted that was going to last that long or have something that the world couldn't address. There's a whole nother, uh, there's a whole nother, bag when you talk about self-inflicted uncertainty on economies and on the world order, so to speak. All right, that's a whole new thing. And here recently, and there, that's why I said there is a difference. I don't want you to panic. I do want you to be protective and projecting what you can do now in the future. Don't worry about propaganda. Worry about policy. But and that's what I'm talking about is the self-inflicted policies coming out that may affect your pocketbook and your portfolio. And that's why we're talking about the tariffs. Tariffs that make domestic goods where you live. If your government decides to place tariffs on imported goods, it makes those imported goods more expensive to the people that the companies that produce them because supplies are higher, and then the companies are going to pass on those prices to to the consumers. And we've had a high inflation since COVID because of the disruption of supply chains and a whole list of other factors during that time. But then inflation has been coming down since then, and year over year, inflation is about 1.8, 1.92%, something around there. And so we haven't been seeing the year over year 7, 8, 9 inflations that we've been seeing during the COVID or post COVID time period. However, prices are still elevated because they're coming down from highs. So folks are still going to the grocery store and filling their pocketbooks like eggs. And I'm not laughing because folks are struggling with their groceries or making adjustments with their groceries. Uh, some households are feeling high prices differently. If you're having a lower income, then you're really feeling the heat there. If you have a higher income, you're making adjustments. So not making light of higher prices of eggs, but you can see it all over social media. You see all during the presidential campaigns, everybody was talking about prices and how we everybody wanted lower prices at the grocery store, lower prices for cars, lower prices for insurance. So inflation was a big topic during the campaign, and the economy was during it was a hot topic. And we go all over social media right now. Everybody's talking about eggs. or the price of eggs. And I love me some scrambled eggs, y'all. All right. But egg prices are high. So when we talk about your pocketbook and your portfolio and the Trump tariffs and self inflicted policy that could raise prices even more because, again, tariffs flow through. It's a flow through tax to the end consumer. And if it's done at a long period of time, then it can hurt a little bit. But I'll give you some updates on what's been going on with those tariffs with Canada, Mexico, and um, and China. Now, Canada and Mexico, as of right now, have negotiated pauses for the cross tariffs coming from the U.S. and tariffs coming or response coming from Mexico and Canada. Canada did come out strong and release some tariffs before the negotiation, which was 100% tariffs on Teslas. Okay, uh, tariffs on on the kind of like a sin tax, kind of like alcohol, but a whole bunch wood. All right, a lot of supplies that go into our energy. A lot of supplies that goes into production. Uh, Canada had a heavy response to it before they negotiated a pause. Again, that's a pause. Okay, uh, a pause is one thing, right? It may be revisited. Okay, so markets don't like uncertainty, which causes volatility. Doesn't like uncertainty, and when when you have elections, uh, it's trying to the market is trying to adjust and it prices everything in. It's trying to wait until the next administration comes in to see if we can have some direction, meaning the economy, the markets, and the like, and see and shore up some of that certainty. Also, too, the public is looking for it's called consumer sentiment. Folks are looking for ways to uh, have some confidence in what in employment, jobs, the direction of the economy. Okay, now now that we've seen the administration turn and we're trying to see some direction, the direction is uncertainty. Is more uncertainty. And what is that again? What does that mean to your pocketbooks and your portfolios? Now the markets have reacted okay with it. I mean, this year we're still up, and we'll get to that in the last segment about some investment charts and some data. But year to date, the S&P is around 2%. We have some bigger stories in the market, Nvidia and the like. That said, because the economy is somewhat in decent shape. Like I said, inflation is year over year, 1.8 to 2%. Different from those high inflation periods. Job losses are not that high, so unemployment is in check for the most part. The Fed interest rate policy, as far as taking money supply out and tightening a little bit, and either staying at the current rates or raising just a little bit, or even cutting a couple of times. So we haven't been raising, but staying put and signaling a cut can help mortgages and a lot more different rates for us access to capital in general. And we have economic growth. It's slow but steady. All right, so it's not declining. So in general, a healthy economy. That said, it's a it's not a thriving economy. All right, it's steady. So with more uncertainty could keyword could bring about uh, some disrupt to that steady economy. So this is why uncertain information or uncertain direction, uncertain information can shake or jolt consumer confidence and overall the domestic markets here in the U.S. and just global markets all over. And global markets did shake a little bit with the initial announcements of the tariffs. And but as of right now, there hasn't been a considerable drop in the markets so far. Maybe perhaps there's there's some sentiment that these tariffs, just like the Canada and Mexico, may just be bargaining chips. That said, there's different ways to go about communicating with different nations. So self-inflicting bargaining chips that can disrupt the whole global market system on so many different ways: higher prices, protectionism, lower stock market prices as far as your retirement savings, higher prices at the grocery store, all that. Uh, we had to just continue to watch what global geopolitical politics and politics is the gamesmanship, really. This is why I share with folks all the time. Don't get caught up in propaganda and politics. Look at the policy. Take a step back and see how it's affecting you and your household. All right, and also the general public. All right, the general public is still, as a collective human condition aid, our responsibility, right? So there are values that folks are aligning with. All right. So you have to align with what your household is going through, as far as your pockets and your portfolio. And you also have to align with public good. All right. Because we are talking about human condition. Right. So look at the policies and see how it's affecting the folks that are around you. All right. And as far as public good, policy, resources, equity in the system, and uh, your pockets in your portfolio. Okay, and tariffs are still on for China. Tariffs are still on for China, 10%. Uh, they're a little lower than they would have been for Mexico and Canada at 25%. And again, there are pauses, so that's still uncertainty. Uncertainty. You know, we don't know if they're coming back for another bargaining chip or whatever, right? Uh, as far as on the domestic side, that's President Trump using them as a bargaining chip. So we don't know. They're pauses. But for China, they're on. China responded, okay, with their own tariffs, and this is called a trade war if it continues. Now, there's no trend right now. This is why being alarmist, the media continuing to now information. You want to be informed. We'll talk about that in the next segment. Is being informed. Being informed is very key, right? Because it brings about awareness. That said, being having a panic attitude can contribute to decisions that are less optimal and also just overall well-being, y'all. Shit, you know, we can't be looking at just some crazy news every day, whether it comes from the office or just random social stuff, right? You will never find a, you know, no, I reserve never, but I think 99.5% of the time, you'll never find screen time on social media and well-being elevated or the same, right? So there's a lot of screen time on social media and higher well-being. You won't see that. You usually work in inverse. So what I'm saying here is that minute by minute bluster. Don't give it any attention. The best thing that you can do to protect, to have a boundary around your well-being, whether your dollars and your well-being domains, when it comes to negative information and uh, and folks that just want to be negative all the time, and particularly those with a lot of ego, a lot of arrogance. It's not to give them any attention. Not to give them any attention. Study how it affects you, but necessarily don't give it any attention. Attention mongers, that's what they feed off of. All right. And also you use it for misdirection and what do you call it? A passive aggressiveness and all this other stuff. Right. Protect your well being. Now, uh, year to date, like I said, the S&P is up a couple of percent. You literally like 2.3, somewhere around there. The markets haven't had any. I wouldn't say haven't had any. That there are some disrupted areas. We'll talk about that in the last segment. as far as negative performance is concerned. Um, but right now, the markets are in a range of normal, just adjustments and reactions to news. If this continues, though, it's always being aware and seeing what adjustments ones can make going forward as far as pocketbooks and portfolios. I would say, you know, if there's areas that are being affected by mass layoffs, again, because of self inflicted policies, as far as disruption in the governmental departments, as far as Department of Education and all these departments that are being affected by executive orders and the like. Again, these are policies. This is not propaganda. These are policy areas that affect folks, right? So take them for what they are, and make proper adjustments. So that's having money at the ready. So folks that are even not in those areas, well, take a look around and say, well, what do we need to do to help prepare ourselves to smooth things out, right? Uh, so that's why when folks say emergency funds, I call them event readiness funds, because they could be positive events or events that don't feel so well, challenging event times. You do have some money where it ain't. My dad always used to say, "Have some money where it ain't." Right? Shout out to Pops for having the mic drop lines all the time. Right? So you might want to put some money where it ain't, where you have uh, self inflicted uncertainty. Okay, when I say self-inflicted uncertainty, I'm talking about uh, coming from the highest areas of our government, particularly our newly appointed president. And this is not left side, right side type of stuff. Okay, these are actions that are measurable. Okay, here at Concurrent Wealth Management, the people that we serve here, and then the folks that I speak with in my classrooms and all this, I don't do propaganda. I don't do propaganda. I don't do misinformation. I don't do bluster. You know, and putting all this information out there just because it's it's content without context. You know, there's a lot. You have to look into the information in order to make an independent, objective, right? These are when we're talking about today. These are actions that are measurable and have effect. So we want folks to objectively look at the information so they can objectively look at what their households are talking about, right? So with uncertainty, yeah, having some more cushion and preparedness. Again, this is not advice because I don't know what your situation is or what your household is. That said, when there is uncertainty, and then there's times to take a look at your pockets and your portfolio and say that let's take a look. Now long term portfolios, all they're always going to have these times of ebb and flow, right? uh Political market cycle, geopolitics, um uh, unrest, uncertainty, always there over the long term. Again, these areas just don't want to cause panic. Uh, we've had examples of tariffs in the past, right? And here recently, we talk about President Bush enacted some tariffs during on steel, on the steel industry back in the early 2000s, and that didn't bode so well. That's a form of tariffs, also a form of protectionism, and isolationism. All right, uh, and we'll get to that here in a minute. But during to protect the steel industry, that was actually what the tariffs were intended to do, was protect the steel industry at the time domestically in the U.S. And it ended up bringing a lot of harm to the industry. It protected it for a little bit, all right, but then jobs started disappearing by the hundreds of thousands in that industry. Uh, some estimates in between two and 400,000 during the time, as far as jobs lost in the steel industry. Um, Also over a few years, right? So uh, there's many reasons for that, but those tariffs were because of the negative consequences of those tariffs, they were abandoned pretty early. They were supposed to stick and be and be there for a while. Um, what does that tell us about today? Well, it's trying to mm, force. Well, there's a lot of. This is why when you talk about economics and economic policy, economic ebb and flows, there are a lot of factors that go into decisions that are made uh, to like for Fed policy and economic policy. These decisions are just not made at the whim because there's a lot of factors to consider. So tariffs are supposed. This is the idea, right? Is to raise prices on imported goods so much that folks would then start buying domestically and having industry protecting industries here domestically, creating jobs and increasing production in your home country. That may not work, and most of the time it doesn't, for a number of reasons. For example, production here, production jobs in America in the U.S. We would have to have the factories be built, infrastructure. All right, uh, it's not a pontoon boat that can make quick turns. All right, it's a large boat that has to take big turns in the ocean, and it takes a lot of time. For instance, when the U.S. was uh, increasing oil production during the Obama administration, I was part of I was offering master limited partner uh, investments to investors because they were a good cash flow vehicles at the time. And what does that mean for production? Well, the increase in production was fantastic. That said, there were no pipe, so uh, there was a lot of building of infrastructure to handle the increased production in energy. All right, at simultaneously, they couldn't build the pipeline fast enough. All right, now where our production is higher than it ever has been, as far as U.S. history is concerned, um, because of different projects that have been taking effect over the last couple of decades. Now they're finally hitting, policy. Some of it's friendly, some of it's unfriendly, but there was a lot of production over a couple of administrations. All right, but the point is that the infrastructure has caught up. All right, but that's taken a lot of years in order to do that. Even when we had COVID, a big part of the problem was is supply chains weren't ready because the infrastructure wasn't there. All right, production jobs simply are not here. Uh, and another reason for that is some companies, right, corporate companies, don't want to pay higher wages. All right, so just because we protect a particular industry or domestic jobs at home and wanting to produce at home, we have to have the infrastructure, and also companies have to be willing to pay higher wages for domestic labor. All right, that's another reason why production jobs are simply not here, and that's been happening for years. So those jobs are not going to automatically just come back overnight. Matter of fact, the pain of a tariff is is going to happen immediately if it's elongated for a long period of time. We're talking about a long period of time, 6, 12, 18 months, 24 months, longer than what the intended result is going to take, which would be 4 or 5 years in order to build infrastructure, yeah, do a little glad handing to try to get companies to pay higher wages, get the public used to higher prices for goods, right? For their lifestyle, for their own well beings. That takes a lot, y'all. All right. So this is why the conversation of tariffs and, and the economy and policy and just a lot of information. It takes it takes a lot more, just to give it a pause and a lot more the scope than just to react and listen to all the all the headlines out there that are just probably lose our attention, spark fear, and the like. It's a lot of factors, right? So pay attention to the the real big picture, and then the actual policies that are coming down or coming out that affect your pocketbooks and your portfolio. All right. So that's a little bit about tariffs. As of right now, China is the only one right now that we've gotten a tariff, tit for tat right now, and we'll see about Canada and we'll see about Mexico here in about a month or so or whatever. The pause may turn permanent. You never know. Okay, but just be aware about if you're in the government and your job's being affected. Um, you know, just look at what you have going on in your household and your portfolio, short, medium, and long term, and how your cash is. Protect your mental health. Don't panic and that's for anyone. Don't panic and react to propaganda headlines. Look at the policy, protect and project, and we do our best to ebb and flow and be objective to information. All right, those are the tariffs, y'all. Uh, to be continued with some of this, some of it, some of the news and the way it's being reacted to or being put out there is just some of it's just ridiculousness. So, uh, you know, again, to be continued, and try to protect your well being. That's all I can say about that. Until we get more of a trend in some of these areas, we just don't know. It's really daily, and it shouldn't be actually. We folks, the responsibility of taking care of the economy and public good, public well being, uh, the direction of any country around the world, particularly if we're here in the U.S. Uh, one shouldn't have to think about or react to daily information or misinformation that's coming out of the highest office every day. That is ridiculousness, right? Because the responsibility of uh, of the public doesn't deserve that from anybody. Okay, it just doesn't. So having to uh, wake up every day to some foolishness, uh, and when responsible for hundreds of millions of people, well, no one deserves that, right? So that's why you have to protect your own well-being and uh, also protect your pocketbook and your short, long-term portfolios. Okay. All right, which goes into the next segment, which is uh, you know social and culture. Let's have a little fun here. I always like the show segments are a trending financial topic, social, society and culture. Then we move on to movies and money and movies and music and money, and then we close out with some data, some financial market data. So let's go into to social culture. And this is kind of like my get off my lawn segment. Okay. So sometimes it can be happy, sometimes it won't. But speaking of misinformation, so the Grammys were this weekend. The Grammys were this weekend. And I haven't watched the Grammys in a while, y'all, but I did see some of the headlines when I was scrolling through some of the headlines on my news apps. Saw the Beyonce won for best country album. Let's see, I think so Kendrick Lamar was a winner. Some of these young folks were a winner. Yeah, so there was there was some. Oh, Shakira is back, right? Shakira got a new album, y'all. Now, do you know she hasn't cut an album in like 8 or 9 years? So for the Gen X folks out there, ain't that something? That Shakira is like she's already a legend. So is Beyonce, right? Uh, they did a tribute to Quincy Jones. I'll get to that in a minute. Uh, but yeah, isn't it something that, particularly for those that are Gen X, we're in our 40s, late 40s. All right. And folks that I can remember right around the corner that were at the height of music, right? They're on comeback albums and all that, right? So to secure, she hasn't been on stage in a while. That was a big deal, right? Like in a decade or something like that. But she was jamming, y'all. I didn't watch it, but I saw like a little clip or something like that. She was jamming. Um, Beyonce still relevant. Taylor Swift was the Swifties. I'm a Chiefs fan. I'm from Houston, y'all. Shout out to Houston. All right, that's where I was raised. That's my hometown. Shout out to KC. That's my birth town. And here I am currently in Green Bay, is where I live. But but yeah, there was the Swifties out there. So a lot going on with the Grammys. But here's the thing about misinformation in the Grammys, the linkage. All right. Before on the red carpet, these two reporters from the Associated Press, and I would say they weren't reporters. They're these, the social media folks. You know, all they happen to be young, so no shots at the young. That said, there's a when we talk about misinformation, it's generation and age wide. Uh, when we talk about young folks, it's too much of the nowism without any context of anything that happened more than 5 years ago, right? And then there's the folks that we were talking about in the first segment, all the news and the bluster that failed to inform themselves. So this segment is about willful ignorance because of misinformation. The willful part is to accept misinformation willingly so it can align with some sort of, either uh, belief or value or practice or habit. All right, which tends to be is not good. It's not good for the individual that's practicing it. It's not good for uh, the interaction of the human condition. Willful misinformation is one thing. All right, then to willfully accept the misinformation and be willfully ignorant, that's not healthy by any means. So what happened at the Grammys? So Babyface, the super producer Babyface, we just had Quincy Jones pass, rest his soul, 70, 80 years, 70 years worth of music, uh, effects, oh my goodness, soundtracks. Austin Powers, The Wiz, Michael Jackson, Count Basie, not Count Basie, but it was Miles Davis, Frank Sinatra. So Quincy Jones. I mean, all just the music genre for all across the globe. He spent some time over in France. All this. Well, Babyface hasn't done the same thing. I mean, he's not on Quincy's level, but Babyface is a super producer. Worked with all genres of most genres of music, but all types of artists and music, right? Worked with Madonna, worked with I think Celine Dion, I believe, Tony Braxton. I mean Bobby Brown. I mean you name it. Even some of the newer artists, y'all. Come on now, right? It's Babyface. Everybody knows Babyface. Well, he was walking the carpet, and these two interview folks were speaking with him and holding the interview. And then some, I don't know, person of the now, some young person of the now, you know, a lot of this music, people can't sing, can't rap, can't play an instrument, can't do nothing, right? But they got a lot of likes and followers, got auto tune and all this other stuff, and it's not talent. And so they came on, and they were on the red carpet, and the two interviewers abruptly and just stopped interviewing Babyface, this legend, y'all. Just a lack of respect, lack of being informed, lack of being aware. All right, just stopped the interview and went over to these other folks and tried to get their attention because they're in the now, right? All right, just reacting to this stuff, now just not knowing, willfully, just accepting. First of all, not knowing, and then going over of the disrespect, and then willfully going over and not apologizing, nothing, right? And going over to what's now. That is a reaction, uninformed, disrespectful, and uh, lack of history, well-roundedness, a whole bunch of stuff, y'all, right? And so what Babyface did, class, he what he did with class, he just handed back the microphone, and he was visibly upset because of the disrespect. All right, just willful ignorance with no uh, with no with no fear of being of kind of like being retributed or shamed or shunned or something like that, right? Uh, some shame is good, by the way. That's a whole nother segment. I'll talk about that in another show, or I might do a podcast about that. But just willfully accepting misinformation, not being not being prepared, not being aware of who you're speaking with, the knowledge topic that you're discussing, the people that you're speaking with, lack of cultural competency, a whole bunch. All right, misinformation does a lot to not only tear down the individual, makes the individual look bad that's practicing the willful ignorance, but also the public good, and also to the people that that spills over to, you know, willful ignorance due to misinformation and the lack of wanting to be informed, right? So you can make better decisions. All right, is it's just not good, and it's just not a good look. And it's very much when we talk about culture and society, which the segment is, we cannot continue to have willful ignorance. Now, what willful ignorance is this is why willful ignorance due to misinformation. That's called alignment. That's called alignment, and that's okay. But that's the lane that folks are in if you choose it. All right, because information is out there. Information is out there, and when folks become more informed on their journey, all right, it helps make better decisions. All right, even financially. All right, that's what financial literacy is. And I know people's like, oh, uh, I don't like the term financial literacy because it gives the uh, the promotion of financial illiteracy makes folks feel bad and all this. But financial literacy, the term, uh, is informed decisions and behaviors. And that's why it's very important to have financial compassion and financial education first before you get to financial literacy. And then you can have some financial wellness as an order of things. And the pushback is measuring financial literacy without the first two steps, which is knowing one person, knowing their experiences, knowing their culture, knowing their values, knowing their beliefs, knowing their goals, their aspirations, and all that. And then passing on information. When I say the information is out there, and then making better informed decisions and behaviors, and then having confidence and clarity and securing a better well-being about managing finances and managing your life. That's financial wellness. That's the same thing about life. All right, is learning perspectives. That's cool. Learning perspectives, learning values and beliefs and attitudes and experiences about life and culture. Fantastic. That's where everyone should start as far as speaking with someone and even doing an audit of oneself. And then then there's the information. There's so much, y'all. I mean, it's got phones. We'll talk about deep seek here in a minute and chat and all this and stuff here in a minute. All right. There's so much information that uh you can get the information and then to willfully ignore then because then that's a choice. Then that becomes alignment and you're attached to it. Now some people are they're fine with that. They're like, yeah, I got the information. I'm gonna do it anyway. Cool, right? Show yourself, right? And that's why you have to have protective boundaries. Everybody don't have to like you. You don't have to like everybody else, but you don't have to uh, when attitudes and behaviors and decisions start to affect others and spill over others. There's no problem if it's if it's relegated to yourself or the small your circle, all right, that think like you, that's fine. But when those attitudes and beliefs and behaviors of willful ignorance start spilling over and affecting and harming a mass amount of people, this is wrong, and it's also it hurts a lot of people a lot than the public good, and it has consequences. All right, so willful ignorance has a price. It has a price, not only individually but also on the public good. All right. Uh, so That particular walking the carpet read with Babyface. This is Will Ferguson of lack of history. Just like the tariffs, we've seen this before. Why we keep on repeating stuff that we can know better know to do better? All right, and some folks say knowing better won't help you do better or doesn't guarantee you do better, but knowing better does help the probability of you doing better. Now you have to just take the action and have the willing uh, uh, you know, motivation to go forward and make some changes. All right. It does increase the probability that you do better. So information does help because without it, you're stuck, period. It guarantees nothing. With information, it increases your probability to do better. Now you attach that with some motivation, you can take some action. If the action is aligned with uh, you know, with will for ignorance, cool. If it's alignment with moving forward and measuring information objectively and applying it to your life to make better out of yourself, but the folks around you and the greater good, okay, you align that as well, right? So, will for ignorance, and it does take a look at it's a must that we, and particularly with the young folks, and particularly and what that's which is the responsibility of the older folks with life wisdom, all right, that know better. Gen Xers, baby boomers, maybe older millennials, but particularly Gen Xers and baby boomers. Uh, Teach the young folks not to just live in the now and yourself, all right, and yourself. So it's not just picking on young folks because it's the responsibility of the elders, the folks with wisdom, in order to not live in such of a vacuum of now and to put your head in the sand of willful ignorance and lack of information, uh, and not inform folks. Now, there's some folks that are trying to inform themselves. Shout out to y'all that are trying to, do better for yourselves, your children, great grandchildren, your grandchildren, and just overall, right? Shout out to everyone that's doing that, right? But the Grammy example is not knowing about a couple of decades worth of music. I mean, I've shared with people who New Kids on the Block is, of course, the New Edition or MC Hammer, or you know, uh, oh my gosh, I mean, some of the alternative rock bands, some of the older rap groups. I mean, Sir Mix-a-Lot, they didn't have a commercial. This is 20, 30 years ago. Then we go back to the 70s. Look, I got Luther Vandross. I bet people know, not even young folks, not too many, but Luther Vandross. What do you talk? My goodness, the OJs. I mean, James Taylor. I mean, even Quincy Jones, y'all. Quincy Jones, over 60, 70 years, right? Of of music. And some people are like, who? I'm like, what the hell? No, that can't happen. And this is why proper uh shaping with information but help younger folk and for folks all the way up until now to make better decisions and just connections with people overall. So will for ignorance, y'all. We got to get rid of that. It's really literally is a cancer. All right, coming around the show, let's talk about uh how one of my favorite movies of all time, Love Jones from 1997. What's that got to do with money? Well, there's a we're all looking for lyrics and scenes that actually have impact about money. See, my nose is running, y'all, on live TV and all that type of stuff. That's why it's live, y'all. Keep it running. Uh, so Love Jones is a fantastic movie. 1997, Lorenz Tate, Nia Long, fantastic movie. It's a love story, and it was just written well, music was well, shot well, fantastic, right? And there was a scene in that movie to where the main author, who Lorenz Tate was playing, uh, uh, he was an aspiring book writer. And I know a little bit something about that because I have my book, Wealth and the Key of Life. Be sure to go check it out. Pick it up on my personal website, drprestoncherry.com, or Amazon or Barnes and Noble. An aspiring book writer, and you need time to write a book. All right, if you're going to do it right. And there was a scene in there. He said, "Oh yeah, I found him. I'm finally getting up out of there." Meaning he's leaving his job. So I'm finally getting up out of there. Y'all don't worry about me though. I got enough money in the stash to hold me over for a little while, right? And and so the his friend said, "Oh, okay, cool. Wait, this guy's glad to hear. Just hook us up with the dedication of the book." And he was like, "No, no shout outs, no shout outs." I did give a lot of shout outs in my book though, a lot of acknowledgement. But the point about it is the way he said it, that scene, the way he said, "Don't worry about it. I got money stashed. I got money stashed to hold me over for a little while." Right. And that goes to the first segment too, is being able to ebb and flow uh, on financial market, economy and market ebbs and flows, right? Life ebb and flows. The life is gonna life, right? Um, but he had a, if you align your life and money, that's why I said life and money alignment, give you money assignments, right? Financial harmony, wealth and well being working together so you can achieve your life design. Well, his life design was writing a book, and he gave himself some time for that. And the way you give yourself some time for that is you got to buy it. All right, you got to invest in it. All right, you can't buy more divine time, meaning you can't buy another century of time. All right, that's just the way human nature is. But you can buy more of your time within your time. All right, within your time here on Earth, you can buy more time of that. All right, time freedom. Okay, time flexibility. Right, and what he was saying there is, you know what, I want to leave my must do job and then go do something that's going to bring me fulfillment and invest in it. You go assign the dollars, and he uh, must have. He did. He made that decision a year or two before that scene. That scene lasted about 15 seconds. All right, but the aspiration was figured out way before then, and he started tucking away his dollars, assigning his dollars to the time period that he was going to allow himself to write this book and then let it carry out into his next role in life, right? So he assigned his dollars to that, and so folks now very popular is starting to invest in sabbaticals. Sabbaticals are long periods away from the job that they are in, or a transition between must do and can't do, or no, must do and want to do, right? And so sabbaticals must be invested in before. The alignment must happen before. Life and money alignment is money assignments, right? Then you take that. Then you have to figure out what you do want to do with that time. What do you want to do with life? What is a sabbatical all about? All right. um, Looking into your internal well-being, your aspirations, your soul. All right, what's going to bring you fulfillment? What's going to bring you joy? What? How are you going to heal? How are you going to heal something? How are you going to take that time to transition to get better in spirit and health and physical, right? All how are you going to use it? All right. And then once that's decided, then the dollars can invest in it. So when somebody says, "Don't worry, I got some money stashed away to hold me for a while," right? Uh, that's saying, you know, I invested in what I'm doing now, and I'm doing it without fear. Well, fear, financially fear, I guess. Because life, there's always some uncertainty about what the next stage is going to be. But if you can go into it with some clarity and some confidence, right? Then it's better because you do have an aim of what the outcome is supposed to be or you want it to be, right? So there's always going to be some certainty there. And, but you don't have to stack the anxiety by not being financially confident in order to invest in your sabbatical. First of all, you can't take a sabbatical if you're not financially secure, you know? So my movie, Love Jones, check it out. If you need a date movie, watch Love Jones, one of the best love movies of all time, y'all. I promise you. I promise you. I promise you. I promise you. You will get some brownie points, fellas. You will get some brownie points if you watch Love Jones uh, with your with your spouse, with your lady, all that, right? So check it out. It's a great love story. All right, coming around the bend here, as right now the story is deep seek as far as the financial data and financial charts. Now, next week and a couple of in the weeks ahead, I'm going to have some cool charts to be flashing up on the screen and all that type of stuff. So keep tuning in, keep subscribing, all of that, because some good information is there. Plus, we're having a little fun. This is the fun part of the Life Money Balance podcast, the To Be Real, because we keeps it real here, and it's supposed to be entertaining. We talk about humanity, talk about finances, talk about your money, all that. Right? And if there's something you want me to talk about, be sure to participate in the chat and all that type of stuff. We round out with uh, the financial data and charts, and I've been sick, like I told you, so this show is getting even better by the episode. You don't want to miss it. All right. And I wish I had this chart to put up in here before you, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about it anyway, which is NVIDIA, DeepSeek, and the S&P 500. You'll hear so many times for the last 2 or 3 years. Now, this, again, information that comes out all the time, all the time. It's the top story. NVIDIA has been the top story, still is, for about 3 some odd years now, because it's got 300% return, 400% return in some areas, right, for the last few years. And people are concentrated in this stock. And stock concentration can go both ways. All right. And it can create sudden wealth in a year or 2 or 3, you know, or it could go the other way. Okay. This is why, you know, taking an approach of like your core portfolio, and this is not advice, but this is just informing you about a strategy about portfolio management. So it's just education. A core portfolio of diversified portfolio, and then have what you call a satellite booked into that, to where you have some cash for best ideas. Uh, is a is a optimal approach for long term investing. All right, because for every Nvidia, there is a WorldCom. There's 2 or 3 WorldComs. All right, there's Enron, and people's like, well, you're pulling up extremes. Well, Nvidia is an extreme too. It's an outlier, right? It is an outlier. 300 and 400% returns that don't happen to the uh, you have the bell curve, right? You got extremes on this side, all the averages in the bell, and then tails on the right side, right? And they're extremes, So having 400 or 500% returns on a stock over 3 years is an outlier. Okay. Um, However, there's more of those stories and firms that witness high peaks, and then massive troughs, drawdowns, than the other. So more stories of either out, outbreaks and then failures than there are outbreaks and then continuances. Now you do have some great stories over time that have happened over time, and that's why satellite investing is, a holding period is still 5, 10, 15, 20 years for your satellite portfolios, right? Sure, you can create sudden wealth. Equity compensation has helped some folks. Uh, yes, absolutely. But over concentration has hurt a lot of folks as well. All right. So, uh, having some money on the sidelines to participate in some opportunistic opportunities over time, fantastic. All right. If that's your capacity, again, not financial advice, but this is how you would, a strategy you would partake in if you wanted to do that, which is your core portfolio, fine. Your opportunistic satellite portfolio, great. All right. Buying all those things on sale. All right. There's you want to buy stocks on sale just like you buy clothes on sale. Okay. But the myth that that you can pick one or two or three or one stock, um, two stocks that are going to outperform everything by droves, 400, 500%, 300%. It just doesn't happen. There's no really proof of that on a mass scale happening a whole bunch. Even the Amazons, Microsofts, Netflixes of the world, those take 10, 15 years in order to get to where they are now. All right. All right. When you hear folks say, "Oh, I bought Apple back in, in the 90s or whatever," still a couple two decades, okay? 10 years, 15, 20 years. All right. So these are buy at discounted prices and hold for a while. Okay. I'll leave you with this. The S&P is up 200 to 2% this year. So just a short evidence. This is just short. Um, so, but this, if we broke this out a little bit, um, it's 2% this year, and Nvidia is down by 18 or 19%, so something like that. Or not? Let's see, it was 19% yesterday, then it was 14% today. All right, as far as year to date. All right, now when Nvidia was breaking out and all these times is up 20%, 30%, 50%, 100%, all this, and last year was up a whole bunch, 7 stocks, bringing up the S&P overall. The Magnificent Seven, it's inside a S&P index. All right, then everybody was like, "Oh, well, the S&P index only did 22%, and then Nvidia was doing 50, 60%. All right, I missed out." Well, on the flip side of that is that when you have and Nvidia lost 20% in one day earlier this year. All right, because the DeepSeek came out, disruption. You don't know where a DeepSeek is going to come out. You don't know when Netflix is going to come out and destroy Blockbuster. You don't know, right? So we don't know. But when it was down 20% a day, now 14, 15% so far this year, S&P is up too. All right. So that's why diversification, it inspires FOMO on the upside, but on the when you have other companies uplifting, poor performing companies during times of either just normal market activity or unrest, then diversification helps. And it says that having your whole portfolio in one or two concentrated areas, if you don't have the skill or the time to be experts in those areas, and even those folks don't have a magic pill. All right. Yes, you can buy opportunistic stocks. Yes, you can study the market and find these and find potential outbreaks. Yes, you can do all that technical analysis, charting, and some trading and all that. Yes, you can do that. It takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication, a lot of skill, not a knowledge. All right, in order to do so. Now I'll leave you with this. When folks say that they beat the market, all right, invest in one or two positions, and they put snapshots on social media saying, "Oh, I beat the market, and I did 40% last year, and the market only did 20." You can beat the market. Sure, you can beat the market. Everybody does every now and again. Sure, right, and you can have some alpha, meaning some positive, adding some additional gains on your portfolio. You can do that as well. Uh, uh, that said, I want to talk about the posting before we wrap up. The posting of returns, particularly those that are just pick a couple of stocks that are not in it every day. All right. When you have one or two stocks, you have a portfolio, say, of $100,000. All right, and you spent 50 or $60,000 investing into one stock on the dips and all your charts and all this other stuff. That's fine. All right, but you still have $40,000 in cash that's been a drag on the portfolio. All right, because it's sitting there, 40, 50, whatever it may be. So I'm not going to invest in the whole market because the whole market doesn't do well. I'm gonna pick one or two stocks. So what people don't tell you is like, "Oh yeah, my portfolio is up 40, 50%. What they don't tell you is that they don't include the cash drag on the portfolio waiting on those opportunities. All right. So that's a little, just a little insight there as far as beating the market all the time. Again, content with context is very important. And I'm not saying that you can't get some opportunities out there and do a little trading and all this other stuff. And it doesn't add value. It does if it's done with uh, context, capacity, uh, uh, information, coupled with a long-term strategy, all that. It's more complex, and comprehensive than you think. All right, but just and even with those that have benefited from a large rally from something like Nvidia, even the employees. All right, and ask Enron how that felt. Ask a whole bunch of other folks. You know, uh, startups. All these people say, okay, equity compensation is fantastic. All right, it does help build wealth. All right. That said, uh, you know, your stock prices and companies perform the other way too. I can give you some other examples. We'll do that in another show. That if you don't diversify out, then those stock, grants and ISOs, incentive stock options and all that, then they go the other way. All right, they go the other way. So be mindful of all the stories of concentration risk. Concentration risk can work. It can add value. That said, overly done, just like overly done food, can bring very much harm to a portfolio that's undisciplined and lack of information, which goes back into our second segment. All right, y'all, man. Look, I've enjoyed it. You see me snotting and sneezing and coughing and all that. Uh, but I'm going to keep it real with you. I'm going to continue to do these shows. Go onto the YouTube, subscribe so you don't miss a show. We have our podcast out. Like and subscribe. You're going to want to do these things so you don't miss any shows. All right. And we will see you next week. Cheers.